Zoo, narrated by Hobson. Jack hated his job. He was an overnight security guard at the city zoo, and while he loved animals, the zoo took on a completely different persona at night. Gone were the laughing children and smiling parents. Even the bright colors of the exhibits became gray and lifeless. As one of two security guards on duty, Jack was often lonely. Even the animals were gone, tucked back into their after-hour enclosures. The evening started just like any other. Jack strolled around the park, pondering whether he would quit the next day. But as Jack walked by the gorilla exhibit, a rustling sound caught his attention. He shined his flashlight into the enclosure and saw two females sitting on a large rock. Jack immediately grabbed his radio. "Hey, Stan, I've got two female gorillas out here. Is Joan working with them tonight? They should be inside." Empty static was the only response. "Stan, you there?" Suddenly, both females went crazy, beating their fists on the ground, screaming and hissing. Their eyes were fixated on the northeast corner of the exhibit. Jack directed his flashlight toward that area. He thought he saw a silhouette standing there, but he couldn't be sure. The gorillas continued going wild, moving further and further toward the opposite corner. Jack ran along the fence to get a better look at what had them so agitated. The glint of his security light illuminated a pair of eyes. He could barely see it, but another gorilla must have gotten free. Again, Jack tried his radio. "Stan, come in. We have 3 gorillas out here." Finally, he received a response. "Jack, sorry about that. I was taking lunch. I'll walk inside and check the pen. It's not the first time they've got out." "Okay, thanks, Stan. I'll keep an eye on them." Jack continued to stare at the gorilla bathed in shadow. He could barely see it, but something about the animal's eyes just struck him as odd. The radio buzzed. "Hey, Jack. Something's not right." "What do you mean?" "You say you have 3 gorillas out there, right? Well, there's 2 back here sitting in their pen." "Okay, what's wrong with that?" There was a long pause before Stan responded. "That's 5. The zoo only has 4 gorillas." Jack snapped his gaze to the northeast corner. Whatever was standing in shadows was gone. "Hey, Stan, you'd better get up here. We've got a situation." A couple minutes later, a loud crash echoed inside the food court about 100 yards away. Jack drew his pistol and slowly walked toward the sound. As he turned the corner, he saw Stan's body lying in a pool of blood. "Stan!" Jack rushed over and gazed down. A large gash ran deep across Stan's forehead. He was alive, but barely. A low growl rumbled from behind Jack's shoulder. He slowly turned to see a pair of yellow eyes glaring at him from the darkness. The animal was deathly skinny. He could see its ribcage protruding from its skin. Its fur was patchy and uneven, and most of its teeth had rotted away, leaving a black, infected snarl. It beat its fists into the ground and sprinted toward Jack, screeching as loud as it could. Jack raised his gun and fired a bullet into the animal's chest, but it kept coming. Another shot into its shoulder. It still didn't slow down. The creature leapt for Jack's throat. A third shot rang out, hitting the animal in the neck. It dropped lifeless to the ground. Jack could barely breathe. Adrenaline coursed through his veins. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. The police arrived and the paramedics took Stan to hospital. Jack set off to the side. He could barely believe what just happened. One of the officers walked over to him. "You okay?" Jack's hands were still trembling. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little freaked out. I've never seen an animal like that before. The police officer looked confused. That wasn't an animal. It was a man. Jack's eyes widened. What do you mean, it was a man? The police officer placed his hand on Jack's shoulder. It was a psych ward patient that went missing about 3 weeks ago. He'd been living in the zoo all along.